Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Horns Report here on KXAN Plus. I'm your host Billy Gates, and the transfer portal stuff starting to calm down a little bit, but there's still a lot for us to go through for the Texas Longhorns football team. And another interesting nugget of information that we'll get to here in a second. That's called the tease in the business. Here to talk about all of that and more is KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace. And Roger, let's start first with transfer portal. I mean, obviously that's what's going on right now. The period for players to enter has now closed, but for those players who entered before the deadline on Friday, they still have a chance to figure out where they're going to go. Texas picked up a late transfer, which some Longhorns fans might recognize the last name from.
Yeah, Marcus Boswell from Akron. Linebacker, played at Lake Travis High School. My guess is he would be, a depth guy to start with. I think he played in 11 games for Akron and did contribute, but certainly not one of the headliners. But again, it's kind of evidence, Billy, of how this all comes together. And I think it's, you have your, just like in recruiting, Sark talked about, you got your 5 stars you want, but you need 3 stars because you can't pay everybody. And now that's just the bottom line is you have a certain amount of money. Guys want a certain amount of money, so you're going to have to get some guys that are depth guys. Obviously, when you have ties like Boswell has, it's probably a little bit easier of a sell to get them to come back home. But it is just fascinating. This 2 week is like a season in itself, right?
Yeah.
This 2 week every day. They play not only every day, they play every hour as far as the action in the transfer portal. So, yeah, like you said, it slows down a bit. I'm sure Sark would like to add to it with some offensive line depth, maybe on the defensive line as well. But now you kind of sort it out. The new guys are on campus. The early enrollees are on campus. These guys will be coming on campus, and then you start building towards next season.
Yeah, you talk about Sark maybe wanting to add some more guys. Defensive line, the past couple seasons with the transfer portal, actually being a thing, they've really dipped in hard on the defensive line. This year, not so much. Kind of feels like there's different needs, obviously, this year, and that's been Sarkisian's sort of strategy with the portal. Like, he's not trying to, rebuild the arc, so to speak. He's just trying to plug holes in the hull, I guess. Would be a good comparison.
They're a program, I think, that can afford to do that. I think there are other programs where, they got to rebuild everything every year because they've kind of gotten onto that cycle where they bring in so many and then they leave and then you do it again. I think he's still done a good enough job with the high school recruiting that you can also build and develop as well. So it's kind of a combination of the two. But it is fascinating how this has evolved into roster building. And, there's a second signing day coming up in a couple of weeks.
You read my mind, Roger. That's what
nobody's talking about that.
No.
Because you better have locked down your class in December, because this time of year is all about the portal, and we'll see if they get anybody else into this class. But most of the guys not only sign, but they're on campus. That's kind of the way it is in college football.
Yeah.
They graduate early. They get to have an off season, spring football, OTAs, however you want to define what they do in the spring now. So we'll see if they dip in any more. We'll see if they get any more again out of the portal. You can get them. You just can't lose anybody that's not in the portal.
Exactly.
The way the structure is right now.
Yeah, and you talk about that second signing day, which used to be the National Signing Day, February 4th. That is the regular signing period where recruits can, make their commitments official, no longer, verbal or posted on social media or whatever. They can make it official. But now with the early period in December,
real early,
like that's when a lot of programs and a lot of players prefer to get that all done because, like you said, a lot of them can graduate a semester early, enroll into spring classes at wherever they want to go to school, and they can get those spring workouts in. They can get that head start on the season. So, in the end, it works out for programs and the players if you're able to get things lined up the way you want them to. But with maybe the 1 or 2 players that sign on February 4th, like the Kelvin Banks did, right? He wasn't an early guy. He was a regular guy. So I mean, it's a thing that can happen, Roger. It's not going to happen very much anymore.
Yeah, I think the unintended consequence of the portal movement now is the high school recruiting has changed dramatically,
Yeah.
and kids aren't getting the same opportunities. There'll be some place to go, but maybe not where they thought they should go, and that's because schools are investing more so in veteran players and players with experience, and so they don't have the means or they don't have the time to develop high school kids. So I think that's one area that's really been costly in the way this college football landscape has changed, is the high school recruiting and the high school opportunity. I mean, there's still thousands of kids in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah.
So if you're a program, you want to get one of those most of the time before you want to go after a high school kid, especially now if you haven't already signed.
Right.
It probably means you don't have as many options,
Right.
or at least high-level options. But
Yeah.
it's just the dominoes fall in a lot of different directions the way the model is now.
Yeah. It has put a weird sort of light on high school recruiting. So we'll see, because you want guys that are going to help you right away, and like we'll get to some of that.
And are you
we'll get to some of
developing
that
them
later,
for
right?
them just to jump in the portal?
Exactly. Yeah. Are you developing them for somebody else?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We are tracking all of the transfers in and out of Texas here on KXAN.com. We've got a running list here of all the players who are on their way out. There's a lot of players on their way out. Just more recently, let's see, I believe we had a commitment from Ricky Stewart Jr., running back, who didn't play his freshman year very much, but he's headed to Stephen F. Austin to give that FCS program, which was a playoff team, by the way, over there in Nacogdoches.
But that's a great example.
Yeah, right.
Do you think he thought when he was at the University of Texas that he was going to end up at an FCS program?
Right, exactly.
My guess is no.
No.
So you go in the portal, and the other problem with going in the portal is, depending on your value, Texas or any of the programs say, okay, and they can cut you off.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you don't have the resources from the school you are currently with, and then you're hoping that you can get a deal. And hopefully he has a great career at SFA, a great program at that level.
Yeah.
But you're talking about being a guy that was on the depth chart at the University of Texas, and now you're going to an FCS program.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Pretty wild. Let's go back to our list here, and then players coming in. We've talked about Rasheem Biles, talked about Raleek Brown, Cam Coleman, those big kind of blue chip transfer guys for Texas, but and Hollywood Smothers as well, a running back from North Carolina State. Kind of seems like a light class for transfer wise for me, but then again, I mean, Steve Sarkisian, his staff, they kind of know what they're doing. They know the pulse of their team, so we'll see what they've got going on. As sort of this transfer thing kind of winds down, Roger, is there any big surprises from your standpoint about how Texas approached the transfer portal this season?
Well, the drum was being banged about the offensive line, and maybe they didn't hit on some of the home runs that fans wanted them to. We'll see. The Wake Forest transfer, Siani, Melvin Siani, looks like he's going to be their biggest get on the offensive line out of the portal. I'm not sure if people thought they could land two of the top, maybe four running backs in the transfer portal, and Cam Coleman, the wide receiver from Auburn. So, and I think they'll probably, Billy, follow suit and go get a quarterback maybe towards the end of the spring.
Sure.
And see if they can get another veteran like a Matthew Caldwell to add to that quarterback room. I don't know if I have had any great expectations because you start to follow what everything is being said, and those are fans, or those are people that write for the websites that have some fan in them, but they break it down the way they see it.
Right.
They may not see it the way Sark sees it.
Right.
GM Brandon Harris, new defensive coordinator Will Muschamp, or any of the coaching staff. So again, I think Texas is in a position where they don't have to rebuild through the portal. Clearly, they had some needs. We'll see if they addressed them adequately, and sometimes we forget about who's there.
Right.
Especially guys that didn't play, but behind the scenes, are they developing to the point where Texas is going, hey, we like what we have in some certain spots where maybe other people think we need a big fix. And again, I go back to our conversation a few weeks ago. Every time a Power 5 or a Power 4 player gets in the portal, every fan of every school. Oh, we got to get him.
Yeah. We
Just
gotta go
can't
get this
do it
guy,
all, right?
Gotta get this guy. He's great. He's
That's
gonna help
right.
us out.
And then
Yeah.
you get another one,
Yeah.
and another one. So it's just weird the
Yeah.
way this has all evolved, and everybody wants everybody.
Yeah, and if you're like the Los Angeles Dodgers, you just sign people so nobody else can have them, right?
Well, that's the old recruiting. That's the old recruiting model, right? We get ours so we can have them, and we get yours so we can have them.
So we can have exactly. All right. Well, with this winding down, there'll be a little bit less and less here on Horns Report, but we'll definitely keep you abreast of any situation involving transfers
And the Blake Gideon hire.
and the Blake Gideon hire as well. Yeah.
Yeah, they bring back Blake Gideon, the pass game defensive coordinator. Of course, Gideon played at Texas, on the staff, went to Georgia Tech. He got promoted to D.C. In an interim basis, played for Will Muschamp here, so it kind of makes sense he's coming back home. And again, weird because he's essentially replacing the guy who was his position coach in Dwayne Aquina back in the day. So, we'll see how that works out with Gideon and Will Muschamp on the defensive side.
Yeah, and with the announcement of Gideon's hire, I don't think it's a coincidence, Roger, that 3 defensive backs who had entered the portal previously, before all of this was made official, they withdrew their portal requests. They're coming back. Derek Williams, Kobe Black, and Warren Roberson are all on their way back. So
do you count those as portals?
Right, yeah.
Count that as part of your...
Exactly.
Again,
Is that part of the recruiting class?
There's a lot of different ways to measure what you did in the offseason, and Sark has talked about. Part of it is you got to re-recruit your team.
Yeah.
And then you get guys to go in the portal, and why wouldn't you go in the portal, right? The only reason you wouldn't is your fear of what I talked about. You get cut off from your school, things don't work out, and if they don't see enough value to bring you back, then you're in kind of portal hyperspace.
Right. Your portal purgatory.
But these guys probably had a pretty good idea that we can test the waters, and we probably will have a place back at Texas.
Yeah.
And again, Sark has to adapt, and he has. I think he's been on record as saying, if you go in the portal, good luck to you. Well, no coach is going to stick to everything he says in a time where everything is so fluid.
Exactly.
And he's got to realize, okay, what's best for the team? Not, am I going to stick to my convictions that I said when I really haven't kind of seen a couple of these waves go through.
Right. Yep. You gotta pivot. You gotta pivot whenever you see the need to.
That's right.
It's one of those things, especially now where everything is just so up in the air and so not structured. All righty. Well, Roger, last night I saw this report from the Wall Street Journal. This is pretty. I think this is done every year, but this is just kind of what caught my eye this year. It's a analysis by a Dr. Ryan Brewer. He's an associate professor of finance at Indiana University, Columbus. And he goes through each FBS football program, and he assigns a value to them like you would an NFL team if it was going to be sold on the open market. So it's interesting because of the number that he pinned on Texas. He sees the Texas Longhorns football program being the most valuable program in the country, and not only the most valuable, but most valuable by quite a bit. He thinks the program could be sold in the open market like a professional team for $2.2 billion. That's a billion with a B, Roger. That's crazy. Like I'm not an economist, neither are you, but
I have no idea.
It seems
what that
wild,
means.
right? Exactly.
And anybody that thinks they do, well, I think they're kidding themselves. But yeah, are we surprised?
Right.
Because Texas has always been considered one of the top revenue producing athletic departments, so it would only stand to reason they'd be one of the most valuable.
Sure.
So I don't know what to make of it because what does that mean? You're not going to sell your athletic department, but I guess it says about facilities, about what they put into it, about the visibility and how they attract in TV ratings. We know the Citrus Bowl did really well for a non-major bowl game.
Almost 10 million viewers.
Yeah, 2 big brands in the afternoon.
Yeah.
On New Year's Eve. So I guess that's good, right? That they're worth a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say.
I know, right?
About some. Does it help them win? I don't know.
Well, yeah, missing the playoffs entirely. So
you tell recruits a lot of things. I don't know if selling them on we're the most valuable.
Well, did you know that we're worth $2.2 billion?
Yeah, but not surprising. The sheer numbers. Now,
Sure.
If you go by sports, now is this athletic department or just football program?
This is just football.
Okay.
This is just football.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because a lot of times you'll see the reports most valuable or athletic department or revenue producing.
Yeah. No. This is the most valuable college football programs in the country. And what's interesting, I mean, at least for fans, I think, Roger, is that not only are they number one because everybody in Texas loves you number one. Number two is Texas A&M, and they're valued at $1.59 billion.
And they're always one of the highest revenue producing athletic departments.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Ohio State comes in number 3, $1.55 billion. LSU comes in number 4, $1.54 billion, and Michigan rounds out the top 5, $1.46 billion. 15 FBS programs were valued at over $1 million. Or excuse me, $1 billion, excuse me. That's with a B. That's what I've been saying. And if you're talking about revenue, Roger, the Brewer, he gets into this a little bit further. He gets pretty in the weeds with it, actually. If you want to go read the full report, there's a link on KXAN.com.
I think what's more important is
crazy.
How much are the donors worth?
Sure. Right. Exactly.
The Mark Cuban at Indiana, the Cody Campbell at Texas Tech, what's their value? How much can they pour into it until we figure out how to regulate the spending? The notion that the NIL Go, the College Sports Commission, is regulating NIL money. I think that's wishful thinking right now. I'm not sure if there's any policing of what these kids are given or at least be promised.
Right.
And then that's a story down the road if they're not fulfilling those promises to these kids with all the different money. And I've heard that they want to take the revenue sharing cap off. There's been some clamoring for that. Why would you? Why wouldn't you allow them to share as much revenue as they want with student athletes? It's what, 20.5 million right now.
Yep.
So again, somebody's got to get a hold of this thing, and you know, I don't know if salary cap, but at least the transparency of here's our roster and here's what we're paying everybody. But even then, do you believe it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Right. And that was part of Brewer's sort of methodology into assigning values to all of these programs, because they're 46% more than what they were last year as a total. And he is saying that all of this revenue sharing and player movement is starting to level the playing field to some degree, where it's creating teams like Indiana, for example, who typically not been good.
I will say this.
But now, they're playing for national titles. So it's one of those things where it's like there's different ways to look at it, for sure.
If I may, with Indiana, because I know lately, especially, a lot of talk about Mark Cuban and the money he's pouring in. But look at their roster, and Kurt Signetti got the big bump by bringing half of JMU.
Yeah.
Where was everybody recruiting that JMU roster, including Curtis Rourke? Remember, he was the quarterback last year. So it's not like they went out and they got all these big name guys from programs. They developed, and then a Fernando Mendoza, nice career at Cal, right? But I don't think anybody thought Fernando Mendoza. So I think there's two sides of the whole NIL. You got to have the money, but you've got to be able to evaluate the talent and get the right fit. And I think Texas Tech's gone about it one way. They're just going after the biggest names possible. Paid off, right?
Yeah.
They get their first ever conference title in the Big 12. They go to the college playoff. They've reloaded. They got Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati. They've got their quarterback. Indiana, on the other hand, if you go up and down their roster, it looks a little different from where these guys were compared to where they are in Indiana.
And just for comparison's sakes, the Dallas Cowboys were valued at $13 billion in the Forbes NFL valuation, followed by the Los Angeles Rams at $10.5 billion. The Cincinnati Bengals are the least valuable NFL franchise, coming in at a cool $5.25 billion.
Yeah. And
you know what? A lot of money.
They're making that NFL revenue.
Yeah.
So the Brown family is just fine in Cincinnati, and they can all sell for those billions.
Yeah.
Unless we go overboard with this private equity notion in college sports where they buy in. I guess that's essentially how you can measure the wealth, is that they buy into the program, so you see what they're pouring in. But
and that might happen.
Conversations we never dreamed of. Right?
I know, right? No kidding. All right, well, we will leave football there, and I'll learn how to talk here in a second. Let's move to women's basketball here, Roger. We witnessed just an absolute beatdown on Sunday here at Moody Center. Texas beats Texas A&M 80-35.
The score
45 points.
Well, the score to me is more about the second half.
The second half,
Because
exactly.
it felt like the first half was still a little hangover.
It was.
From the two losses. It's 34-24 at the half. Texas is up by 10. And then 23-3, 17% shooting by A&M. Longhorns are 0 for 17 from 3 until Ashton Judd hit one with about a minute to go. Yet they're still turning that game into, one of the biggest blowouts in the history of this rivalry. And so I think once they kind of shook off the disappointment of LSU and South Carolina, A&M was in the wrong place at the wrong time on Sunday.
Yeah, they definitely got the wrong end of that. It was A&M's second consecutive SEC loss of more than 40 points. Vanderbilt had beat them 91-51 last week, so they had a week to think about the Vanderbilt game. And then they go to Texas and get hit with a 45-point loss. 23-3 in the third quarter, Roger. That's hard to do on air. How do you and A&M got their one field goal with I think 15 seconds left in the quarter. From watching that first half of that Texas team play, where Vic Schaefer called it "quote unquote" awful, they still played good defense. It's just they couldn't get anything to fall offensively. They come out in the second half and they really put it on A&M, and just kind of seemed like Vic sort of shook some life into him there in the locker room.
Yeah, and then the defense broke down in the fourth quarter and gave up 8 points to A&M. So
how dare they?
Yeah, and this is a Texas team that can suffocate you on defense, and it just kind of felt like it snowballed because they don't do it offensively. They're more efficient offensive than dynamic offensively, and that Leah Crump led the way with 12. Kyla Olegger had 10 points, 18 rebounds. They just kind of share the wealth, but they just suffocate you and they kind of steal your heart on defense. And that is something that kind of separates them from so many programs. So we'll see. Now they get a little time. They don't have a midweek game before they go back on the road for 2, and seems like, the voters certainly showed their respect, right?
Right.
They don't move in the polls despite the loss.
Didn't move at all, Still number 4.
Yeah, they lost to South Carolina on Thursday. And so, wrong place, wrong time for the Aggies. And now it looks like, A, they're healthier than they've been in a long time.
Right.
And B, they kind of got things turned back in the right direction.
And you mentioned Aaliyah Crump, Roger. She's been on the shelf for a couple months, missed 15 games with a foot injury that, she said in the post-game press conference on Sunday that she took her time coming back from because she didn't want to come back too early. She didn't want to have to, potentially aggravate that injury and sit out more games. She really wanted to be diligent with her recovery, and she loves ball, man. And that's just to me, when you hear a young player, a young freshman, just tell the media, I just want to play ball. I think that says more about her character than it does, her skill. And she's a tremendous player, Roger. Let's be honest.
And she was off to a great start.
Yeah.
And I remember being in Vegas, and I got there the day of the UCLA game, and got word that she's out. And you're thinking, wow, that's a 13-point score, a starter. You're getting ready to go into UCLA and potentially South Carolina is how it played out. And then she's watching as this team continues to grow and they win without her. And that's to wear on you a little bit. The fact that people were stepping up. They had a small bench, so she knew they needed her, but that had to be tough. You go from jump. She's productive. She's one of their top scorers. And then all of a sudden you get hit with 2 months, the James Madison game to yesterday or Sunday against Texas A&M. So, it shows, how hard she worked. And mentally, to me, it showed how she really hung in there. And now they're, I guess, as full of strength as they've been all year, because this is their team now.
Yeah, they played. I think they played 11 players yesterday, and 10 of them scored. 9 or 10 of them scored. So, obviously that's the kind of depth you want from a championship team. They've been playing with 7 or 8 most of the season with various injuries, not just Crump, but Brianna Preston was hurt. Ashton Judd was hurt. Taya Sidbury was missing time here and there with an injury. So they're all back on the floor now. So hopefully they're able to keep that going. We heard from Vic and Aaliyah in that post-game press conference on Sunday. So here's a little bit from both of them.
First half was just awful. I was so disappointed on so many levels. Finally came out in the second half, got a little mojo with our press, and then we started making some extra passes against the zone. And of course, Aaliyah, again, she's special. And let me tell you, she's missed 15 games. You know, there's kids that'd be going, I'm done, coach. I'll just redshirt. I know you need me, but I'm just going to redshirt and not do it. Never entered her mind. Like, she's all in for this team. She wants to play. She wants to be a part of this team. And I just think that speaks so much to her character and who she is.
I wanted to make sure I was my best self for this team when I got back, so I really took my time with it. But just getting in shots with the assistant coaches, Blair specifically, she's been really good for me. She's always getting in the gym with me, helping me get better and get ready to get back on the court. So between the athletic training staff here and my assistant coaches, my head coach, they've all really helped me, stay confident and be ready to get back on the floor.
We were on mute there for a second. Anyway, what I was saying before I muted myself, Roger, is that there's such an understanding of sort of the bigger picture from a young player like that, like Aaliyah. And she was a highly recruited kid. Her talent is through the roof, and obviously, her character is also through the roof as well.
Yeah, and she came in, and you could tell she was kind of mature beyond her years from a playing standpoint and the way she carried herself. And I'm sure that's part of what Vic Schaefer and his staff look for when they recruit are players that are going to buy into what they do, and that starts on the defensive end. That starts with the willingness to play 94 feet on defense and on offense, and then, like you said, just to look at the bigger picture and not worry if you're scoring 7-8 points a game. It's all about the end result and getting that result. And I think Aaliyah Crump is a scorer they need. I think she gives them a different dimension, more along the lines of a Jordan Lee, can create and stretch the floor. So, yeah, I mean, she's been impressive from the start.
Yeah. No, great ball player. And Texas faces off against Arkansas next week. So they've, like we were saying, they've got the week off of competition. I think Vic said they're going to give his players a couple of days to sort of recover a little bit from that A&M game, and then they're going to get back to it. And then they'll get ready for Arkansas in Fayetteville on Saturday, I believe.
Sunday,
that's what it is, Sunday.
And then they go to Florida. So, So that's 4 out of 5 road games in the schedule. But Arkansas, Florida, a little different two-gamer than LSU and South Carolina.
Just a little different than LSU and South Carolina, that's for sure. Real quick, baseball starts in 3 weeks. Can you believe that, Roger?
Yes. Yes, I can.
That's crazy. The Longhorns baseball team got their third top 10 preseason ranking from various polls around the country. Baseball America put them at number 8 most recently. Obviously, with the SEC regular season title last year, go 20-8 in conference play, but then you don't make it out of the regional, Roger. That's the most disappointing thing, because winning your conference is one thing, but in college baseball, if you're not one of those 8 teams in Omaha, then your season has some, there's a kind of a cloud that hangs over that season if you don't get to the College World Series. So obviously that's the goal, but with this team coming back, Roger, they've got all kinds of pitching coming back. They've got some good offense coming back. They added some great transfers. There's no reason why Texas baseball can't be in that position again.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and so much it can come down to those 3 starters.
Right.
The Friday, Saturday, Sunday guys once conference play. A little different. This is kind of, we're learning more about Jim Schlossnagle and his scheduling philosophy, because they were supposed to open at San Diego, and he said Texas should open at home. So we'll see how the weather is in a couple of weeks when they open, but they'll open with UC Davis. They get Michigan State at home. They go to Houston to play at Dyken Park in those 3 ball games there. But other than that, it's primarily a home schedule, and then it doesn't matter because you're going to get plenty of strength of schedule from the SEC.
Oh, yeah, you get all the strength you want. Yeah,
exactly. But I think they're going to load up on wins early, and in the process, develop that, who are my guys, who are guys that need a little bit more, who can they count on. Should be a really good offensive team. Carson Tenney's the headliner of the portal guys they got, the catcher from Notre Dame, preseason All-American. They got some guys that are back as well, and then Dylan Volantis. We'll see how they use him, preseason All-American pitcher.
To me, that's the most interesting thing to me. Obviously, Riojas coming back, Ruger Riojas, Max Grubbs, Luke Harrison. You love to see Grubbs out of that bullpen again where he's been so good. And maybe they move Volantis into a starting role so he's throwing more. Or maybe they try it and figure out sometime during the season that Volantis is more of a closer like he was as a freshman. And he was a really, really good one there too. So to me, like that's one of the more interesting sort of moves that Schlossnagle has to figure out.
Yeah, and I struggle to think that he's going to be another 2 one-inning guy.
Sure.
Because there are two things at play. The other thing is his future.
Right.
And he wants to be stretched out and extended and show that he can be a starter. But maybe he's that bridge guy. We've seen a lot of really good guys that are able to come in and give you 4 or 5 innings. It just might not be in that traditional back end. But we'll see. This offense might be so good they may not need something like that. We'll see how the staff comes together.
Yeah.
Burns emerged as a pretty reliable closer last year as well. So
that guy throws hard.
He does throw hard, and you like to think everybody's developing under Max Weiner as well. So if Rodriguez is healthy, they'll find a spot for him. But they're loaded, and we'll see how it all shakes out. But you're right. I mean, it comes down to a regional. And you get up against a hot team like UTSA that came in and they were fearless.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they'd already beaten Texas once, and we saw what happened last June.
Yeah, that's why they make you go play the games on the field. That's why they're not, Stratomatic on piece of paper. And yes,
I wish tonight's
Stratomatic if you're watching.
College championship didn't have to be played on the field. It could be played on paper.
I know, right? Yeah, no kidding. All righty, well, hey, we will end this episode of the Horns Report right here. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. And for Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you again very soon.